just like, it's amazing how much we learned in 5 days. Like we wrote it on Sunday, we showed it to a teacher on Friday, and in that time, like we would have done it maybe completely differently, or at least organized it completely differently.
Yeah, like I think the algorithm was strong that we came up with.
Yeah, for sure.
And, especially for beginner students.
We're awesome.
We're awesome. Yeah. In conclusion. And the podcast.
Yeah, that was the whole point. It's just a pat ourselves on the back.
Walk away undefeated. For people that are, well, I mean, we're new to coding too, but I guess people that are earlier on the journey than we were just 2.5 months ago. That's kind of scary.
Yeah, right.
I think like you get better at writing in the language, but what's really great that you can focus on from day one is the strength of your algorithms.
Yeah.
If you understand how to solve a problem and how to break it down into like individual steps, that's the hard part. That's the hard part. Like, and that's, I think the people that are really having a hard time, they're not doing that part of it. Like they're learning how to code everything, but they're not, they're still struggling with that whole step back. And even with group projects, one thing they keep emphasizing to us, they're like, start at the whiteboard. Like even if you spend several hours at the whiteboard, everything will go faster, which the whiteboard is exactly that. It's a whiteboard and you're writing down what you're going to build and like how you're going to solve the problem, but you're not writing down specific code usually.
Yeah. It's amazing, again, week one, when we're really just, you're really just doing a lot of exploring of so you're exploring like specific algorithms, like writing one, like most programs are going to have dozens, hundreds of algorithms, but you're just writing like one or two at a time, week one. And then, what else was I going to say?
You build like bigger projects in week two.
Yes. Yeah. So
that's the beginning of that, like a project that has multiple involved methods inside of it.
And so as you start to do that, like it's pretty amazing how quickly it gets complex and hard to kind of follow. And so it's cool. It's good. We had a group project this Friday where we had to build something that actually like we were very, very prepared to succeed. I felt like everyone, like considering how difficult some of the other projects were, the project they gave us on Friday was not super easy, but relatively doable in that I think most people finished it well before the end of the day. Not everyone, but that's okay because I think different groups work differently. I felt really good about how my group worked, and I think the thing that was most exciting was not that we solved it and built it, because it actually, I think we all saw how to do that right away, but that we were able to do it really smoothly, working together, communicating. And so it's just cool to see that already taking place as well, just in week two, like, oh, I'm working on a group, which is my maybe least favorite thing to do.
The group
is to work in groups, because it's nerve-wracking for all the reasons they say it is, right? Like you're butting up against different personalities. You're constantly like trying to weigh different people's ideas. You're trying to introduce your own idea, and in order for that to all move smoothly, like you have to be prepared to be like, here's my idea, and have everyone be like, yeah, but we're not going to do it, and just be like, okay, cool, man. Sometimes that's cool, or to know like, no, like, hold on, can we please at least try it? I really think it's important that we try it. Like those are really difficult things to navigate, right? Like with your ideas and other people's ideas. So it creates an enormous amount of anxiety for me, as you can probably tell. So I'm fucking rambling about it, but it went really well on Friday, so it was good. It was a good experience.
Yeah, and I'll add on to that in terms of like sometimes you pitch an idea and the group doesn't roll with it. I think this applies to pairing too, though, is that there's multiple ways of solving the same problem.
Totally.
So you have to be willing to both check your ego at the door a lot of times, where like if you pitch something and maybe it is the smoothest way to code it, and other people just like, and if they're not really grasping it, that's partly on you. You're just not doing a good job of explaining it.
Yeah, you should be able to explain what you want to code, for sure.
Yeah. At the same time, though, like it's such that there's a couple of times like I've entered in the conversations with people about, well, like someone builds it one way and it works, And then someone else is like, but we can do it this other way. And I'm really making an effort in the groups to be like, we already have something that's taken in the right input and putting out the right output. Like, this is just a time drain.
Totally.
Like, it's true. This is not how you would code it. But at least for these projects right now, we don't have to worry about how fast it's working. Like, if it shaves a couple milliseconds, we need to get the project done. And then you can worry about doing it better. But things I think that are worth fighting for, I don't know how to phrase it, is because I had one group project where this came up. And in the spots where I really held my foot down, that made the project infinitely easier later in the afternoon. And in the spots I let it go, that actually slowed us down. And this was more week one. This wasn't really week two. Is one method, one job.
Yeah.
Seriously, because like the person that didn't want to do that, they did a great job coding, but like literally what they coded at the start of our Sudoku project would have been perfect to also use at the end of our Sudoku project with a couple of tweaks, except each thing you wrote did like multiple things, and all those methods, it wasn't calling multiple methods from within one method. So when we say one method, one job, we don't mean, what we mean by that is that you can have a method that uses multiple other methods, and oftentimes you will have a driver kind of method that does that. But each one of those methods it's calling literally does one thing. So like you don't want to combine something that both like sorts everything you're working with and then adds a key to them, and then like, I don't know, like changes the whole thing into an array. Like I'm making this up. I don't really have something in mind, so it's hard to make a good example. But you can usually tell, like, especially if there's like a lot of lines of code, you're like, and you can't write it within like 4, you're probably doing more than one thing.
And part of the reason for that is so that when your project changes or when you want to scale it up, you're able to like make your code adapt more easily.
Yeah, and I think another good question to ask when you're getting into bigger projects is, if you're coding something, and well, even DBC that says this, like if you feel like you're coding the same thing again, ask yourself, can I use that previous method?
Yeah.
Like, can I just call that and have that do this thing I already coded it to do, and then like have another method that like uses that, and then maybe throws one other thing on top of it, or what? And it's okay to have one method that all it does is call 3 other methods. Like I've done that multiple times, and it makes everything a lot easier to read. It makes it easier to follow, and yeah, again, with the scalability. So in your group settings, I'd say fight for that one method, one job. Have everyone agree on their outputs and inputs. Like, because I've seen different ways. Like some groups, they kind of like pair, or they break the group in half. My group on Friday, it actually worked great, where we broke out everything that needed to be done, and then each of us coded alone like 1/3 of the project. There's 3 of us, and there's 3 like really clear things that needed to be built. So we each built a different part, and we didn't tell each other how to build it, but we just agreed, okay, this is the information you're getting and like the data type and how it's structured, and this is the object you're putting out of the method. So that just made putting it all together such a smooth, easy process. I mean, you know, you still got to do some tinkering. But
it's a pretty good feeling when you all split up, come back, put your code together, and I think this was definitely like not the way it usually goes. I think we all got very lucky. But when my group assembled our code, it ran right away. I mean, we still had to debug some other shit, but none of it had to do with the fact that we were combining our code. Our code all like kind of worked together, and because of what you said, because we spent so much time at the whiteboard. So that was a really good lesson. I was really, we were all very excited about that, because we were all anticipating a bunch of problems. Yeah, because like it was the first time we were all like kind of working separately on code and then trying to merge it all together. So it was cool.
It's funny though, they also, this was your comment yesterday or a couple of days ago. What
did I say?
That they gave us an intentionally hard project for the first week.
Oh, of course, yeah. I think they did that throughout the first week. Yeah, the Sudoku one was really hard.
And I do think, and I talked to one of the older students who was coming around, like one of the alumni, who was kind of mentoring me, helping me out some that first week. And I was asking him about like group dynamics, and I was like, yeah, you know, I'm trying to figure out a good balance of that. And his comments, he's like, this is a good day to be asking about working in a group and how to have like a functional, healthy team.
Yeah.
And I think they even said that, where Duke said it's like, if you get the project done, but one person coded it and someone feels like totally left out, you didn't use your ideas, you have failed this project.
Yeah.
Like that project, it is stressful. It is really demanding, but it's also designed to teach you to get used to working in a team. And like, I guess a couple of my thoughts is democracy is not always the best path. By which I don't mean I don't mean like a dictator that just says this is how we're going to do it, but maybe like an editor in chief who's taking everyone's ideas and giving everyone space to talk, and then maybe like like ask everyone feedback, make sure everyone's good, and like keeping up with the health of the team, but saying, okay, you do this, you do that, you do that. Because sometimes you'll get really strong personalities where they won't give other people space for their ideas, or they'll shoot down ideas that are really good because they don't understand them yet. So it's important to stick up for your teammates.
Yeah, for sure.
And to really, like, if someone like just rejects someone else's idea, for a second be like, well, hold on, like let them like really explain this, rather than, like cutting it out after like 1 or 2 lines. It also helps when you see other people arguing about useless minutia. Like, again, like, oh, we could do it these 3 different ways, and you already agreed on doing it one way. Like, kind of help break up those conversations, because they're just time drains. They really are. But I think working in a group can be really great too. Like you're talking about, this past project was fantastic.
Yeah, it was. It was.
Yeah. And I think in terms of a good teammate, the best things you can do is listen to other people, assert your ideas, like be willing to fight for them. Like which is kind of the opposite of what we were already saying. Like, don't be stubborn about it, but also, like, there's one person I gave feedback to, and all 3 of us agreed on the same thing. We told this person, we were like, you had some key ideas for the project, but they almost got dismissed by one person in our group because he wasn't willing to defend them,
right,
or stand up for them. But yeah, it's great and it's tough, but it's what we're going to do in the field.
Totally.
That's the other thing DBC is really good about.
Yeah, it already feels so relevant, right? To anything you would be doing on the job. So,
like I feel like we're actually basically doing the job already, except we don't have the skills to do it on a
right.
I think so.
Well, I think that reminded me too, like you were saying, I think something that's kind of frustrating about it that you have to remind yourself, like, because you can get really obsessed with like trying to finish every single thing they give you every day. And really that is your goal. Like, I wouldn't want to discourage someone or say like, here's an excuse to be lazy, but like, I have not finished every single one. I have tried so hard every day to do them, but I have not finished every single one. But I think I remind myself, like, some of these things, like the Sudoku challenge, again, not to give too much away, but whatever. I think people who make really attempts at that, 1, have been coding for a lot longer, like serious attempts at that. And 2, probably don't try to do it in 1 day, right? Yeah. And so that's what's frustrating, is like you want to revisit these. And so and some of these are projects that I think would naturally carry over into another day, if not just because they take that long, but because your brain can only do so much of this problem solving in 1 day, right? Like, so there's something so great about like looking at your code with fresh, after a night's sleep and like with fresh eyes, like, and you don't get that luxury with a lot of these things. And that can be really frustrating, but I think like just reminding yourself, like, I didn't come here to learn how to write a program that solves Sudoku. I learned how to get the skills to, like, solve as many problems as I need to in the job. And
the work in a team and
right, stuff like that. So that's just been a hard thing for me to balance, because I want to do everything they told me to do. And if they give me these cores in a day, all these things in a day, I'm like, well, they must think I can do them, so I better
well,
do
yeah.
them.
And I asked one of the breakout sessions at the end of the first week, I asked her teacher, Duke, that. I was like, are you telling us to jump 10 feet because you know we can jump 10 feet, or because you think we can jump 8 feet and you want us to 8? Like, and he said, he's like, it's because you can jump 10 feet. But I think it's not just an ability to solve the problems. If you're going to get all the cores done, a lot of it is improving at time management and taking breaks.
Yeah.
And how you personally are good at focusing or resting enough. Like, it's funny, once you get into DBC, it's more important to take breaks, and you're going to get worse at doing them. I think that's a very normal experience. Again, because you just know, oh, if I don't get all this done today, then it's like I'd be finishing it up on the weekend and we're doing work then. You don't really get a chance to catch up.
You don't. That's maybe the most important thing for you to say.
Cut it loose. Cut it loose. If you don't catch up, like there's a couple people we talked to that repeated because they were really upset they didn't totally finish this one challenge, and they just kept obsessing over that and not learning the next day's curriculum because they're looking behind their shoulder.
Right.
And it's you will drown if you need to understand everything right now. I mean, at the same time, I would emphasize, yes, understand everything while you're doing it, but if there's something you're not getting, maybe like revisit it every day for like 10 or 20 minutes, but don't let that sink the ship.
Right.
Like, it's actually, so this is interesting. I want to talk about repeating specifically because repeating happens a lot more than I think the impression that we're all sent before we start school.
That people repeat the phases?
Yeah. I mean, like, everyone knows that you can, and it's cool and it's fine, and it's like totally not a thing, you know, it doesn't cost any more, and they want to give you the space to learn. Like, but it like with our cohort entering, I think we had, how big is our cohort? Is it 29 people right now, or is it?
Yeah, 29 or 30, I think.
Okay, so like I'd say
it's a lot of people.
A third of that is people repeating at least.
Really? Is it that many?
I'd say like 8 to 10 people.
Oh, wow.
Don't you think?
No, I mean, I don't know. I guess I didn't. I'm not sure. That sounds right. I'm not going to debate you.
Yeah, no, it's true. You're right. Like,
I'm not sure.
Oh, maybe I'm making this sound like way more gravitas than it really is. It's at least 6, but I think it's more in the. I think it's close. It's more like 8, maybe 9.
Okay.
And that, I guess that's not what you would expect. I don't know how else to put it. Like,
well, I think as the cohorts are getting bigger, which it seems like they are, right? It would make more sense that more people are. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? Like that, just great. Like the percentage doesn't look like it's going up. It's just that there are more people in the cohorts, but I'm not sure.
Oh, you mean like they're taking in bigger cohorts than they used to?
Yeah.
I don't know if they are, because wasn't like.
Well, the phase 3 cohort was like 4 20, people, right? Or some shit, right?
That's really special circumstances.
Oh, is it?
For that is that phase 3 did not actually exist initially.
What does that mean?
It's kind of like our situation. So, okay, so for the audience, with the Fiery Skippers, at least in Chicago, there's not a cohort following us. Like there's this 3 gap, and then the next one comes in. So it was the same kind of situation.
So
they talk to the teachers and.
Oh, okay.
Which it's funny we're talking about that now, because I don't think that's something I don't think that's something they want to have keep happening.
Well, I'm not. Yeah.
But I will say this, and this is what the phase 3 students advice they're giving me, like especially repeating, is like, keep in mind, DBC is like, it's basically like a very experimental startup approach to education. So you can like talk to them and be like, hey, I want to try this. Everything's experimental here. So that's kind of, yeah, I was really surprised too. I was like, why is there only 4 people face to face? Because usually there's more like at least 3 or 4 groups. At least when I was touring.
Yeah, when I toured, it did look like she was showing me some of the phase 3 final projects, and there were at least like 4 groups of like 4 people, right? So
yeah. So real quick, I think so. We've kind of been talking a lot about like life balance, and we haven't talked about food. This is a happy topic. But let's talk about food last, because again, that's a joyful topic.
A joyful topic to end on. All right.
Yeah. But
what's the depressing topic you want to do before that?
Topic: non-emotional intelligence, engineering empathy. Those courses that we've been doing. And this relates also. We talked about a lot of people at DBC have backgrounds in the humanities. I've noticed, or like the arts or teaching. Which that kind of could be the humanities, depending on what people are teaching. Unlike math and science backgrounds, so
most of us teach humans.
Yeah, so like I think a lot of the people coming in, this is probably a more, what's the word? Emotionally intelligent group of people than you would expect in the industry on some levels. And I'm talking about emotional intelligence as in like the ability to read people, recognizing the emotions people are feeling, having soft skills.
Yeah,
I guess. Totally. And one thing they emphasize at DBC is that these can be taught.
Yeah.
You don't need to, just because you're not good at it now doesn't mean you can't get better, and just because you're already good at it doesn't mean you can't get great.
Right.
But that's part of the whole point of the engineering empathy classes is to work on emotional intelligence. So it's funny, on the one hand, I feel like a lot of people already have that background a fair bit, but like how do you feel when you finish an engineering empathy session? Like,
well, I'm really I should say that the engineering empathy was part of the reason I chose DBC, not the entire reason.
Me too. Other boot camps.
And I'm not even sure if I was like, I'm going to have a ton to learn from this. I might have even been a little arrogant because part of my teaching background was working with teenagers at an after-school program for a long time. And so you want to talk about outbursts of emotion and having to regulate or like deal with and sort of guide a bunch of students who are doing a bunch of creative writing through a bunch of their out of control emotions. So I had done a lot of, I had researched, and I have other friends who do that kind of work. And so, I collaborated and learned and done a bunch, some similar things and some similar mindfulness things. And I had run some of them. I never had like formal training, but yeah. But anyway, all this is to say, I was not an expert, but it was definitely something that was on my radar, and that I felt a little bit more familiar with than maybe someone going in without that background. That said, I think I started learning or just feeling the impact of it kind of right away, just with the way you interact with your groups and when you pair with people. I love how insistent the curriculum is on an awareness of other people, right? Checking in with people, giving feedback to other people. How are you doing? How are they doing? Like, is every work environment going to be the way it is at DBC? No. Fuck no, absolutely not. And so some of these strategies. Yeah. The gold standard. It's easier to practice these things when everyone's doing them. So when we start every pair session by checking in with the person. Where you at? How you doing? You might not have that luxury out in the world, but as we're learning, I think the stress is so much higher, and the exhaustion is just a different kind of exhaustion. That feeling like other people are, whether they want to or not, sort of geared toward the supportive role. I think has made it a much easier place to learn, for sure.
That's true. And I think even like with groups, it's great. And I think it's very intentional. Like the first group project that week, one of the EE sessions is about extroverts versus introverts and just how they interact and what it's like being one side or the other, which matters when you're working with a team because it's always going to be a mix. And
right.
it's Susan Cain's book, Quiet, The Power of Introverts in a World That Can't Stop Talking, changed my life. But that book also talks a lot about those themes. And specifically, oftentimes introvert ideas don't get as much recognition or consideration. Or like sometimes a team will just do something because, I forget, there's a term for in the military where if someone proposes an idea, everyone's naturally agreeable. So sometimes you'll go with an idea just because someone proposed it.
Right, right. Yeah.
And that's not necessarily good for the health of the project.
Right, right.
So you have to make it safe also to be able to like disagree a little bit, or the challenge at least ideas. But also, so me and Josh are both a little bit more on the introvert side of the spectrum. Like we're both sociable people that good people skills. We like people. I mean, I don't like people, but I enjoy I enjoy spending time with people though. And the EE sessions are emotionally draining, like especially on group project day. That was week one. That I had to eat alone that day because it was like we had support group, and then we had EE, and then we had
of
a day of group project. And it's even been said that some people refer the DBC as extrovert heaven. One of the teachers told us, and it's true. But at the same time, I think you can get the space you need as an introvert. Totally. You just maybe sometimes you want to eat lunch alone, and like when you're expected to pair, you're supposed to pair like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Thursday's an optional solo day. Friday's group projects. But on those pairing days, you can just kind of be like, okay, let's pair until like 6 o'clock, which is when official hours end, and then work solo that night. Like if you want a good mix. And if you really like working with people, that can be good too, because you're not going to get carried at all if you're doing it alone.
Right.
But at the same time, you know what? Like solo days, you have option of pairing, and I'm going to share this because this is with you and me. And neither of us wanted to admit it, but we shared it in morning check-in where we were just not – it was the day of the checkpoint, and I was just drained going in the afternoon. I don't know about you, but it was a hard topic.
I had a panic attack.
Yeah. Yeah, but so like that afternoon, right, the core we had, or the 1 or 2 cores we had to do, wasn't making progress, and you wound up coming over and chatting, and then we just decided to pair, and we made more progress in 15 minutes of pairing than either of us had like an hour and a half working alone.
Yeah, and it's because
for it.
It's because you get caught in this trap. I think this can happen pairing too. I think it's a coding trap, right? Where like, or maybe a learning trap, but it's like you get stuck, and then you wind up in like one of these two circles or cycles. Like one is you've lost any sense of any logical way to answer it, so you just start throwing methods at it. I don't know, what happens if I do this? What happens if I do this? What happens if I do this? And you're just throwing shit at the screen, and that is extremely useless. That is a waste of time. I mean, I'm not discouraging experimenting. I'm talking about completely blind. What about this thing? What about this thing? What about this thing? Like,
for me, it's just an energy thing sometimes. Like, if I'm not,
well, that's why I feel like when your energy's low,
it's hard without someone else. But also, I think some people that struggle more with soloing, because I think overall you and me are usually pretty comfortable solo working on projects.
Yeah, I always prefer it, but I'm seeing that it's not as helpful. But anyway, go ahead.
But with soloing, some people seem to have this mentality that because you're soloing, that means you don't talk to anyone about what you're working on, or you don't ask questions.
You made that point before. That's a good point.
Yeah, but like you also with Tony, like me and Tony have started doing that more and more. Where we'll come over. Usually we'll be in the kitchen or something, like getting a new cup of coffee, and it's just like, hey, like, where are you? And there's like, oh, I'm here. It's like, okay, like I can't figure out blah blah blah, or we'll just say I'm working on this problem.
Right.
And sometimes it's talking about your problems out loud helps you solve them. But sometimes it's like you and someone will be struggling with opposite things, like you and me with the snake search.
Right.
So just because you're soloing don't feel like you have to be working on it alone. Like when you get stuck, talk to a teacher or talk to a peer. Either they'll help you or you might solve it yourself.
Yeah, totally.
It's like by describing the problem. And I didn't realize this. Duke referenced this up front. There's all these little toy ducks in the front.
Yeah, I saw those.
And he said it's like what you do. There's like 20 of them. And you just grab a duck and you start talking about the problem. Then you grab the next duck and you talk about the next thing you need to build. If you make it to the end by then, you usually don't. Like you've worked out whatever you need to do.
Just by being forced to talk it out.
Exactly. But so, all right, closing topic. Food.
Food's hard, man.
Food's hard. It's also great.
I had such big ideas about making my own food every day and bringing a lunch and blah, blah, blah. And like, I don't know, man, I come home and go like right to bed. And then you wake up and you go right back to boot camp. So,
yeah. So what I would tell people to do is expect to eat out a couple times a week.
Yeah.
First of all,
or cook everything on Sunday.
Well, I'd say a combined approach. Yeah, like cook everything Saturday, Sunday. Like if you need to do a post-it note on each one, this is Monday. This is Monday. I like cooking one dish big and then eating the same stuff for like 3 or 4 days, which is why if you eat out once or twice, you get some variety.
Yeah.
Take advantage of the dry food bins, though. Also.
Oh right.
Like this is so cool. I realized you can eat breakfast there. Like so, I have breakfast stashed up each week.
Yeah.
And so I'll go to campus, eat breakfast there. I'm usually still eating. No one has said anything to me yet. Like usually munching on a bagel like during check-in.
Oh, I've seen other people do that. People are always doing that. Yeah. I saw people like shoveling cereal in their mouth.
Yeah. And actually, this is a fun story about my checkpoint experience. So we had the meeting and like, okay, you have till lunch. And this is like a freelancing habit I developed. And I will say this because DBC is usually cool with it, but sometimes people give you weird looks. I think part of why people struggle with school, or at least I did, is they tell you this is what working hard looks like. This is how you're supposed to.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And when I was freelancing, I realized like I did my best work in coffee shops or bars during the day when I wasn't busy. And like I constantly changing scenery, and I'm used to eating while working. So that's the thing. Like if I'm hungry, if I'm still working, I'm okay bringing my work to the food. You know, like it is good to take breaks, but also I don't find it weird, the idea like I'm eating breakfast while doing work. I like doing more like cognitive work when I'm eating breakfast. So that was like, I was finishing up breakfast, looking at the assignment and just like, or the checkpoint and just thinking through like, how am I going to do it?
Right.
Before I was even coding, which again, that's like the whiteboard, right? But
totally.
One of the what do you call them? The mentors, the teacher students.
Mm-hmm.
He came over and he's like, "Why are you eating breakfast?" I was like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "It's the checkpoint today," and I just said, "It's like because I'm hungry." Like, but it's and he got upset, and I was like, because I quoted Steve Jobs, and this in the old Chicago office or school, they had this quote on the wall: "Empty stomach, empty thoughts." And I quoted that at him, and I was like, "So." And I said also, I was like, "This is the checkpoint. I want to work optimally." He's like, "Oh, whatever. Don't even." I was kind of joking, but I was also serious. Like well,
yeah, you did well on the checkpoint, so
yeah, I did. And I also like, I'm someone that really enjoys listening to music while I work. Like some people can't do that. Some people need to be listening to certain kinds of music. For me, it really gets me on point. Especially if there's certain songs you have on loop, like just the same song over and over. And if you always work to it, it's always like this meditative song that gets you in the right mindset. But some people aren't like that, so it's like my version of focusing good is stretching in the afternoon at 3 or 4 o'clock. And for other people, it's like no distractions, just doing one thing the whole time. So don't be embarrassed about that. But this is getting off the topic of food. So people that are serious about food, prep all your food on Sunday and I'd say have some dried goods meals at the school.
Yeah, I think so. Like
And snacks, like
you're gonna be so focused. Yeah, snacks or something like that, and like a lot of water because you're gonna be so focused. Sometimes time's gonna get away from you. You're gonna look up and realize, oh my god, I not only am I hungry, I've been hungry for 45 minutes. I didn't even realize it.
Yeah, so like a lot of people
having something that you can go eat
sandwiches.
Because like and for me, like I've had moments where I'm like, oh, I'm like hungry. I'm like getting frustrated because I'm so hungry.
It's funny. I was never a snacker. Like snacking is not something I usually do. But at DBC, like I actually do have granola bars now for like the afternoon.
Yeah, you have to.
And the morning and like sandwiches. Oh, and also, so one thing DBC emphasizes is don't change your life habits when school starts.
Yeah,
that's a little bad about. I didn't train until this week, which again, because last week I was like, I need to hit all the cores every day.
Right. And
only like a quarter of people. It seems like only a quarter of people get all the cores done consistently.
I wonder if anybody got all the cores done this week. Did you?
No, but no. I blew off half a core to go to the gym. I blew off another half a core to. Oh no, I actually. Yeah, I missed one release. I had a friend up like 10 years that was moving to go teach at this. She got a job in Buffalo, New York at SUNY.
Oh, cool.
Just finished her PhD. And I thought she was leaving during our break, and it turned out she wasn't. And I found out that day, she's like, I'm leaving in the morning. So like I talked to Duke, and I'm like, is it all right if I roll out like an hour or two early, just because she was in the loop with her husband, like packing her office. And whereas their apartment was way north. And I told him, I was like, I can either do a 30-minute commute now or like an hour and a half commute later. I'd rather save myself some time. And he was really cool about that. I missed some, but so despite the don't change life habits thing though, I have started stocking freezer food at my house for dinner. Like, just cause like,
I know.
I don't want to eat out all the time. And so the alternative is like if you really cooked enough, I guess you could get away with it. Like my first week, I'd like cook up a steak when I got home. But now I'm like, I don't even have the energy. I just don't want to even have to think about it or deal with that.
Yeah. I think just, give yourself a little bit more permission to change your diet, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, like don't go totally junky, but be willing to eat out some of the time. Find cheap options in the neighborhood. Stock up on dry goods. But also, this is why food's a fun topic. I realize we've been fed at least 4 meals since school started.
Yeah.
So that's like twice a week, 2 or 3 times a week.
And a lot of the times, it was good. And a couple of other times, they've had food for an event, and they've had all the leftovers the next day.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you don't mind being a poor ass scavenger, which I do not.
Everyone is, though.
Everyone is, man.
We're broke. We're not working
also,
for 6 months.
Don't feel like you're going to be the only one, because everybody, I mean, that's the thing you got to remember is, like, I think everybody there, like, we all paid to be there, but, like, we're all not getting paid while we're there. So no matter what your financial situation, that hurts, right? Before you went in. And so everybody's very, very aware of that. Anyway.
Right on. So yeah, everybody keep eating. Eat out, stock up on dried goods. Anyway, thanks for coming on, Josh.
My pleasure, my friend.
Break.
My pleasure.
I know you have a train to catch, so.
Yep. Yeah, I gotta go.
Till next week, everybody. Bye.